Shalom. So I figured out that while the problem appears on my side where my screen's shaking, it's not actually broadcasting that way, which, okay. I guess it's a problem with StreamYard. Uh, there is the link if anybody wants to join. Otherwise, I'm going to pretend to do some work.
Welcome to Aetna Medicare Solutions. Medicare Part B. Trans-
Hello, completely theistic. Nice to meet you too. Hello, people. Sorry, I turned off my mic for a second. Hey, Garth. Long time no speak. I do remember you. You were, what did you call yourself? A metal something? Metal worker? Not a metal worker. Yes. There can only be one God. This is correct. If anybody wants machinist, that's it. Machinist. But I do have questions for Judaism. Why did God give the commandments? For what reason? So, um, what the mystics talk about is God's kindness. God being good and loving gives, and he gives in in the best way possible. Therefore, he gives. By the way, anybody who wants to, there is a link you can click on to come on if you are willing to turn on your video, hopefully, or if I know you. So yes, Garth, you can come on, even if you're not willing to turn on your thing. What was I saying? So he gives in the best way, which is to give to that which is completely undeserving. But to give in the best way also includes so that it would not be what's called the bread of shame. And if God were to give us things without giving us a method of, in essence, going to bed is a good thing, especially if you're a machinist. I would be very, very sad if you machined off one of your hands. Don't do that. It's a just chatting stream, Roman. That's why. And so, in a similar manner as when I give my dog a treat, I tell my dog to sit or to give me her paw before I give her the treat. In a very similar manner, God gives us the commandments. So that we may actually do what he wishes, so that we can reflect his love back to us, but back onto him. And in a real sense, thank God they've made machines a lot safer. A little bit too safe, possibly. And also so that we may turn towards him and understand better how to turn towards him. Therefore, God gives us this opportunity to keep his commandments so that we may know him. I think so. Roman!
Hey Jacob. Hey Jacob.
I think you're echoing.
Yeah.
You listened to my conversation with CW. What did you think of my conversation with CW?
Is this my fault?
Is
It's
what?
only me.
Oh, you're hearing an echo of yourself? That is my fault. Let me try to fix that. And I think I know what that is caused by. Okay.
All right. So, you said before that you don't think God is a person, and I sort of see a little bit of what you mean. Like, God is not just the burning bush, right? But it still seems like God wants some specific things, like there are 10 commandments and 613 mitzvot.
God is agentic. That doesn't mean... Okay, you're confusing the word person as Trinitarians use it for... You're confusing the word person as Trinitarians use it as with the word person as we use it.
Okay.
So when we use it modern day, we mean an agent, and I do believe God is an agent. I don't believe God is his persons in the Trinitarian sense, by which they mean manifestations or revelations.
Okay. So God can manifest in infinite ways, but God is in fact a person in the sense of being an agent who wants things and does things, and et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
And by keeping those commandments shows that God really cares about us and that we follow guidelines to live as sinless as possible. Yes, that is one way of explaining it. Sorry to hear about the leave. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens after Thunder Bay and after I talk to PVK. But the more I think about it, the more it seems like me leaving Bridges of Meaning might be the best thing. And PVK, yeah. Seems like there was a lot of details about events I never even knew about until that video. There's a lot that none of us know about. Our community fails to be a community with communal structures and actual community, which is my problem. You were saying, Roman.
Okay. So you had a conversation with CW. Who's CW exactly?
CW, I thought you watched it. It was a few...
Is it the Chris one? I thought his last name was, it started with a P or something.
No. Chris Pacal? No. Conversation with CW was an on-the-go one. He came on to one of my basically just chatting streams.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't a just chatting stream, but he came on right after I turned off the stream, so I started a new stream. First they came for the Anadromist, you came on, and actually just when you went off, I think it was, I was turning off the stream and CW came on, and since I wanted to have a conversation with him, I spent the next almost 3 hours apparently talking with him.
Okay. I do remember this. He didn't seem to get it at all. He seemed to be like, no, really, how do you really feel the whole time? And it was like, it's
CW tries very much to be, well, first of all, he is an advocate for personalism, and I think that's part of the problem that a certain wing of our community has.
What do you mean by personalism?
Unfortunately, it's not a well-defined term. It's a it is a philosophy that claims that really all of our ideas about how we interrelate in our relationships, and how communities should be structured are flawed, and that in actuality, what motivates and def- defines our relationships is just individual relationships with different people.
I mean, in some sense, that's true, but in other senses, it's like you can make assumptions about other people. Like even if I didn't know you, I could assume you spoke English, right? And there's certain things I can assume about you by like looking at you and you living in my community that is beyond actually
It's
like what I know about a person.
right. Personalism is, I would say, obscurantism at the very least. It's agnostic. It's one of these philosophies to which my response is, why are you bothering saying anything if you don't believe that anything we say matters?
You think he thinks nothing you say matters?
No, no,
That's
no, no,
scary. Okay.
no. Um, okay, so there is a section of our community. Um, I guess the biggest spokesperson for it would be Nate Heil. I think his channel's called Grail Country, and they tend to be the leftists involved in our community. And frankly, I think a lot of the person who actually engages with my channel the most, who's involved with that, is Luke Thompson. And their ideas are just confused. I don't bother. I don't bother engaging their arguments, mostly because, like, they're not arguments that you're capable of engaging with, and I try not to elevate their voices too much. And CW represents um, the segment of some of that type of thinking, which I think is still capable of and desires very much to engage in um, also in also being rationalist and um, the propositional as well, which is why I like engaging with CW. But in the end, I think he represents the best of that segment, which is ultimately incoherent.
Okay. So they're leftists in the sense of like being interested in economics and being interested in actually forming communes based
No,
on shared property.
no.
Okay.
Um, I would say this is properly what Jordan Peterson would call the personality types that are leftist, which I'm probably actually part of myself. People who are very open to various, um, to exploring new ideas, people
Mhm.
who are not necessarily into um, uh, rigid hierarchies, who are more creative, more and I mean, I don't think anybody is um CW is a liberal theology guy. Yeah, I mean,
What does that even mean? I never even figured that out. It's like, I guess there are ways literalism, but other than that, I don't know what it means. Like,
Well, okay. So this left right liberal conservative personality split is caused by our need to actually form into um, teams which broadly advocate for various ways of looking at things. And we group by personality.
okay,
I
like,
don't know. I mean, probably CW dislikes being psychoanalyzed the way we are
okay,
doing completely. But
that's fine.
liberal theology rejects the notion of biblical inerrancy, which is typically a conservative theological presupposition. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of it. There are various ideas which tend to um, which tend to be attractive to people with similar personality types, and people broadly end up seeing things in like splitting things into two groups and identifying with one or the other. And this is and actually I think Ian McGilchrist does a really good job of kind of explaining why this type of two why having two ways of looking at things, like why everybody has exactly two, like all creatures have two hemispheres of the brain, right? That it's useful to split things into two and think about it as you have two eyes, right? And the two eyes help you gain more perspective and a better capacity to see and less likelihood of becoming completely blind, right? And as a higher manifestation of a similar concept as our individual selves, communities also have this two eye type thing or two ways of viewing society. And that's what makes the left right liberal conservative um, divide useful on a social um, in a social way. And in fact, I would say the larger your communities get, the more necessary it becomes to start dividing them into more, which is one of the reasons why we tend to divide a lot of things into threes, especially like in the US government, or you have subsidiarity and things like that, which the Catholic Church came up with and why they can have 1 billion members. Um, so we as individuals, as part of communities, fall into teams and groups. And the easiest way to identify is left right, although it's going to be fuzzy, and so that's why we do the left right thing, why in a lot of pretty much, even when you have more than two political parties like you do in a lot of other countries, you still end up broadly in left right. And in our community, because it's large enough, we do have a left right split. And in theology, you're going to have broadly a left right split. Did I lecture enough at you?
Yeah, I think you did. I'm just I don't know. It seems like it did take a while for me to get like your point about what was going on, and I don't think you were being obscure about it. I think you were just like, for some reason, it's hard to just, because to me it seems very simple. Like after I've absorbed it, it's like, oh yeah, you shouldn't throw friends under the bus for strangers. It just seems so simple, and like so many people just don't get it, and it seems so weird to me that people don't get it after I've absorbed the meme. Right? It's just
Okay, so that's what registers to you as why our plan of action should be how it is, because loyalty is one of your fundamental values,
yes.
whereas when you look into The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt and um, his explanations of these things, um, there is a there. I mean, different people have different things that like really convince them,
Hmm.
and yeah, I there are. It's not. The framing I gave you was useful for you and for a lot of people, but the problem is, as a community, we don't have a structure for sense making and a hierarchy which allows for information and actual action, which is not what actually happened
Um,
there.
so it just
Yeah.
seems like loyalty is fundamental. Like like it's fundamental to my marriage, right? If I'm not loyal to my wife, I'm just not a good husband. The end, right? And
Eh, there's a lot of people who actually think loyalty is counterproductive, and to to a lot of people, like the idea of loyalty is actually something bad, especially people on the left.
why? That doesn't make it.
Because loyalty says because loyalty says I am not going to treat everybody fairly. I am going to treat some people with privilege, and so because loyalty cannot and equality both cannot be ultimate values, and in fact they are in conflict, it becomes necessary for a society to have people who are like, hey, loyalty is really important, and other people to be saying, no, equal treatment and objectivity is really important, and for us to have a dialogue between these two values so that neither one ends up becoming too dominant.
But see, it still seems fundamental. Like okay, I want equality between, like I have two children. I want them both to be equal, but I want that equality because I'm loyal to both of them, right? If I wasn't loyal to both of them, I wouldn't care, right?
If you are loyal to all members of a decision making group, including yourself, and there is a fairness to yourself, then um, loyalty loses all meaning. If every human being has equal loyalty values, then you lose the actual priority of loyalty.
Yes, but right, that's fundamental to like having a group. So like if we're a group and we have loyal to each other, then we're a group. And if we don't have loyal to each other, we're not a group. Like the
Okay,
end.
you're thinking of it in a very, very particular way, which
Mhm.
I think is one necessary value, and which is why I agree with nationalism, and I do believe that we need to have concentric circles of thing. But Christianity, Pauline Christianity, was founded on this idea of there is no Jew or Gentile, man or woman, slave or free in Christ Jesus.
Right. In Christ, meaning, oh, right, I get to be loyal to my fellow members of Christ, right? Not to.
Well, that is a particular thing that people will, in fact, have even more problems with. But
So there are people who have problems with it, but like even if you take like the Good Samaritan, right? Like the Good Samaritan is this story about a guy who helps a stranger out, and that's cool. But why could he help a stranger? Oh, because he was rich and he had money and he could help the other person. Oh, how did he do that? Oh, he had strength. Oh, how did he get strength? Oh, he had a group that supported him.
okay,
Like
you're
beneath the paint,
arguing
behind the
you're
scenes, like
you're arguing with the choir.
yeah,
I see a lot of importance in loyalty. You have to recognize that loyalty taken to too much of an end can become problematic, which is why every community needs some people who are like, hey, loyalty is important. Disloyalty is you're a traitor, da 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 da. And you need some people who are like, no, like loyalty is corruption and it's privilege and it's giving people, we should in fact be more open and egalitarian and treat everyone fairly. And both of these are important values which must be balanced, and you cannot make any of them your idol.
okay. Let's say you convinced me. I'm not sure you have, but if you convince me, let's pretend. How do you convince someone else of this if they don't share my value of loyalty and caring about people in the group and people we know as opposed to people we don't know? How do you make this case?
Okay, so if they don't share that value, then
Yes.
So this is part of the great thing about groups is what happens is you have lots of people with different values,
Mm-hmm.
and when you have something that's convincing, it's like you're flipping many different switches.
Mm-hmm.
And so human society is very fluid, right? Because you have lots of different people with different values and different ways of looking at things. And ultimately, we end up making decisions when multiple values militate for the same decision. And that's actually a good thing that
Mm-hmm.
works. So, which is why I keep on talking about Baptists and bootleggers. Because every communal decision is made by multiple actors for multiple motivations.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those things come together in ways that are very unhealthy. And that's why you get things like public choice theory and stuff. And it's really, really complicated. And one of the ways of making things work is you have lots of conversations with different people, including people who clump together and trust each other because of their values, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I have a conversation with somebody who is, so this was part of my project Jethro of talking to couples, right? Why? Because when you have couples in a community, they obviously paired off as a couple because they have a lot in common and a lot of things which allow them to live together, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
and families tend to have similar values because you tend to instill your values in your children, right? Despite what a lot of people like to think. And so what happens is you also get cliques in society, and when people of different cliques actually talk to each other and convince each other, then you get a much healthier sense-making mechanism and larger groups working. The problem is right now, partially because the internet is deranging how we talk to each other, and partially because our distributed cognition has been hacked for the past 100 years or so. A lot of that isn't happening, and that's why you're seeing so much dysfunction, and you're seeing society coming apart, and you're seeing more and less capacity of people to form acceptable acceptable coalitions, which is a problem. It's a huge problem.
Yeah. I can imagine. Okay, so you can imagine loyalty. You can imagine also they're not loyal to you, so they're like, so you should be afraid because no one will protect you or whatever. That's, I don't know if that works in this group. I don't think it's quite cohesive enough. So I don't know. I don't know what.
Well, if
I'm
this
trying to.
group is not cohesive enough for us to deal with this intelligently, which I am not convinced that it is or it isn't. If I was convinced that it definitely is not, I wouldn't bother with it anymore. If I was convinced that it is, then I wouldn't have one foot out the door.
Yeah. I guess if I had to make an argument from a sort of more left space, it would be that he's an interesting guy. He brings an interesting perspective into the community, and that interest should be like, respected. But if you're like, oh hey, we're all not part of each other anyway, then what does it matter what he names
Okay,
himself?
so this is why you should pay attention to the moral bases that that Jonathan Haidt talks about.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are his 5 moral foundations? Haidt's moral foundations. Actually, I think he's up to 6 now. Yeah, he is. Why don't I put this on screen so that other people could see it? This is at moralfoundations.org. And so these are the 6 moral foundations which motivate pretty much everyone, but different people in different ways. And some people only get really motivated by one of them, and some people don't really get. Some people get motivated by multiples. It's rare that somebody is motivated by all 6, but the more conservative you are, the more likely it is that you are motivated by multiple of these. So they are 1, care harm. This foundation is related to our long evolution as mammals with attachment systems and an ability to feel and dislike the pain of others. It underlies virtues of kindness, gentleness, and nurturance. So for certain people, it's like, hey, Chad the alcoholic doesn't mind. And other people are like, no, it bothered him. And for them, they're focusing on the care harm of whatever the decision was, whereas other people are like, well, Chad doesn't care, or this didn't really harm him, or whatever. Number 2, fairness cheating. This foundation is related to the evolutionary process of reciprocal altruism. It generates ideas of justice, rights, and autonomy. And so this would be more of actually what's motivating me is, and I haven't made too much of it, is the actual due process, which was not followed at all. And it is what I find most actually motivating myself.
Does this have a sort of corporate due process built into this community? Does it exist?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So you want there to be one?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you would like there to be a constitution of meaning, and them to write out your rights and blah blah blah.
Later, Garth. Yeah. I mean, or some process of electing leaders, and yeah. So I'm the type of person, like, I used to make like for bylaws for organizations and stuff, and I would love for this organization to have bylaws, but it's usually very difficult to get people to actually care about those until enough things happen that they decide, okay, we're going to have bylaws, we're going to have actual procedures. 3, loyalty betrayal. This foundation is related to our long history as tribal creatures able to form shifting coalitions. It underlies virtues of patriotism and self-sacrifice for the group. It is active anytime people feel that it's one for all and all for one. 4, authority subversion. This foundation was shaped by our long primate history of hierarchical social interactions. It underlies virtues of leadership and followership, including deference to legitimate authority and respect for traditions. So a lot of people will say, well, the mods should be dealing with this, or Paul Vanderklay should be dealing with this. And if Paul is fine with it, then let him, why are you saying anything, right? Sanctity degradation. This foundation was shaped by the psychology of disgust and contamination. It underlies religious notions of striving to live in an elevated, less carnal, more noble way. It underlies the widespread idea that the body is a temple which can be desecrated by immoral activities and contaminants, an idea not unique to religious traditions. And 6 is liberty oppression. This foundation is about the feeling of reactance and resentment people feel toward those who dominate them and restrict their liberty. Its intuitions are often in tension with those of the authority foundation. The hatred of bullies and dominators motivates people to come together in solidarity to oppose or take down the oppressor. We report some preliminary work on this foundation on the psychology of libertarianism. So these are the 6 basic moral foundations that Jonathan Haidt has been able to identify, which tend to be what motivates different people. Oh, this whole time I didn't actually have this on screen, which is silly of me. You should have said something.
I did not even know you had this. Yeah, that would have been a good idea though.
Yep. I pulled it up, but I forgot to actually add it to the screen.
Care harm, fairness cheating. Yeah, fairness cheating actually just seems totally fake to me. Like as a value system. Like I don't think. I think again. I just think loyalty is so fundamental. Like if you're loyal to the system, okay, cool. If you're not loyal to the system, then you don't care. Like I have no loyalty to Islam, so I don't pray 5 times a day, and I don't see it as like a violation of sanctity when they don't pray 5 times a day or whatever, right? And so it just seems like loyalty is the bottom.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Well, okay, look. So, well, okay, so if
Loyalty, you believe, is the foundation for all.
yes, like if I don't care about you and like I don't care about you at all, or I care about someone else more, then of course I'm not going to betray you. I'm going to do the expected thing and maybe hurt you or protect one person over the other person because I'm loyal to them, right? Like it's not because like care is like
Okay, Roman,
downstream of that, right?
I hear you. I
Yeah,
understand that's really important to you.
yeah.
All I'm asking you to do is recognize that you personally are highly motivated by loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only one of the 6 moral foundations. And actually, more people tend to be some people, a lot of people are almost solely um, motivated by care harm. Those people would tend to not be part of our community at all. Those people actually tend to be very woke, because when you tell them somebody gets harmed, they're like, well, if somebody's going to get harmed, stop it, right? And those people tend to not get involved in our community at all, but like very large numbers of people are primarily motivated by the care harm thing. And a lot of people, especially libertarians, are very big on liberty of oppression. Um, People thought to be religious tend to be really into sanctity degradation. And the funny thing is that those are the people who, in an atheist society, like, they're the people who are like, we all need to become vegans and um, organic GMO foods and stuff, which, like, they believe it's scientific and it has nothing to do with science, but because they have this sanctity degradation foundation, which is being triggered by their disgust of certain things, they tend to be really into like organic eating and things like that. So yeah. Okay, I am going to go soon, but
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, you were yawning earlier on. You should go to bed. And,
I should.
you know.
I should.
All right. If you just wanna hang out, it's cool. If you want to answer some complete theist questions or something, you can do that.
Eh,
Yeah.
he's not actually engaging, and I'm not sure he's not just one of the bots.
All
Um,
right.
yeah, unfortunately, as my channel grows, I am getting more and more people that I think are bots. Computer, Muslim woman, um, possibly completely theistic. Like, if they're not bots, they're very ideologically possessed people.
That's too bad.
But yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm almost up to 500 subscribers, and I'm almost up to 4,000 annual watch hours. And so once you get 4,000 annual watch hours, all I would need is to get up to 1,000 subscribers, and then I'll be an official YouTube channel.
Official? What does an official YouTube channel mean?
YouTube partner, like, that can, so my channel can be monetized, and it puts you in a different category.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, good luck.
I'll talk to you later, Roman. Good night.
Yeah. Good night.